From the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay, welcome to SuperTalk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful SuperTalk Mississippi Radio Network, or SuperTalk TV, right on the C Spire TV network. But if you're listening on Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast, it's January the 24th, 2022. By the way, I like to say that I'm from the Foundation Studio every Monday, and I want you to know that my team and I are really, really pleased to be here. We're thrilled to be associated with the Foundation. The Foundation's official name is the Foundation Mississippi Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Foundation, that is, not to be confused with the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. It was actually started back in 2003. It's that nearly 20 years ago. It's a group of dedicated volunteers from across the state of Mississippi that come together to form what is called the Foundation Board. They work closely with the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks to provide independent financial support that helps the state ensure that it's moving toward creating outdoor enjoyment for generations to come. They also get occasionally involved in efforts that involve legislation or issues. And, that's important. That's critically important, actually, to our outdoors enjoyment in the state. And from time to time, they will occasionally fund a program that is not associated with the department. So they're doing some great work. They're raising money and making sure that we do generational projects. Needless to say that we're lucky to have the foundation in this state. And the team at SuperTalk Outdoors is thrilled to have them as the title sponsor for this show. By the way, if you want to contribute to an organization that's involved in outdoor enjoyment, look them up. Look the foundation up. I think you'll want to strongly consider supporting them. They do amazing work. I'm glad to be back at the studio here on Biloxi's Back Bay after spending some time in the Mississippi Delta. It was a great weekend of hunting. I think a lot of people say that. It was cold. It was super cold. Finally felt like hunting in the wintertime, I might add, in Mississippi, because it's been so warm. I mean, we talked about that for weeks here on the show. I heard a good report about deer movement from across the state. Heard of several good reports, actually. That's something that my friend William McKinley, the whitetail deer coordinator for the state of Mississippi, predicted last week right here on SuperTalk Outdoors. But that cold weather, we had some duck activity. We had some good deer activity. My son Jordan Mathews and his friends Jake Carter and Travis Dunn had a great duck hunt over in Chula. For the SuperTalk TV, Facebook, and YouTube audiences, here's a video of them breaking ice on the way to the duck hole. And for the radio audience, that's ice breaking that you hear in the background. Jake finished the day with a great 8-point, actually. An outdoors day in Mississippi doesn't get any better than that. It was just a good cold day, and the deer activity was up. I like I say every time on this show, every time I do this show, family, friends, and the outdoor. Wow, that's what this show's all about. By the way, the 2022 legislative session is big time, is full swing now. A lot of bills getting entered in. We're going to be learning a lot more about that as we go forward. That's what the first part of the legislative session is all about. And then they start doing a lot of debates, and they'll pass a lot of legislation. Things are happening pretty rapidly there now. We're watching for any legislation regarding the outdoors, though. And we're going to talk about legislative issues here on this show just from time to time, those that impact outdoorsmen and women. We also want to talk about why what happens in Jackson matters to you if you love the outdoors. So we're going to be especially focused on the reintroduction of the bill to create the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. I believe strongly that passage of that bill is critical to our generational enjoyment of the outdoors. We're going to be talking with Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy during the first half of the show today. So to see what he has to say about the legislative session, I want you to get to know Alex better. And then with the deer and duck seasons coming to a close in most of the state next weekend, we're going to talk turkey with Adam Butler, the Wild Turkey Program Coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. So now let's move over to my friend Alex Littlejohn, the State Director of the Nature Conservancy, and say, first of all, good morning or good afternoon to you, Alex. How you doing, buddy?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing good. Listen, I went back. You were on my show, Coasty, on the show on the coast several times last year. And I went back and I wanted to see what I said about you the very first time that you were on my show. And you were joined by Ed Penny of Ducks Unlimited. And you guys are both Mississippi boys. You both went to Mississippi State. You both have a deep love of the outdoors. And you've dedicated your careers to the outdoors of Mississippi. You want Mississippi's outdoors to be the best on earth. That was pretty accurate description of you, wasn't it?
It's pretty close. I mean, that's pretty spot on for me. I was born and raised in Oxford, and kind of upset everybody when I went to Mississippi State. So they finally accepted me in Starkville, and finally got over it in Oxford that I'd chosen Mississippi State and wrapped up, undergrad and graduate there, and just, that's where Ed and I actually met. And Ed took off to California for a little while, and I stuck around and ended up at the Nature Conservancy. Ed comes back and works for the department for some time, and now at Ducks Unlimited. And he and I have become pretty good friends, and we feel like Mississippi is definitely, to us, the outdoor and hunting, should be the outdoor and hunting capital in the U.S. I mean, you think about duck hunting in Chula. You could have left Chula and run down and caught a few reds that next day after you shot an 8-point, and run down the coast, caught a few reds, and if you wanted to, you could come back up and go to the Black Belt and see some of that beautiful landscape, or go fish on the Mississippi River, or it's amazing the resources that Mississippi has to offer. Resources that I was privy to because my dad took me outside and threw me in the Jeep when he went duck hunting, and that's my addiction. I don't know that I need another one outside of duck hunting. So, and that's why I'm here today. I mean, it really shaped my life, those early years. But Mississippi's home, will always be home, and I don't want to call any other place home.
Neither do I, man. Neither do I. And I say it on this show nearly every week. If I don't say it every week, that Mississippi is in fact the capital of the outdoors in the United States. You may find certain segments that might be better in other states, but what you will find in Mississippi is the collection of outdoor activities that you just described so well, including unbelievable offshore fishing. When you add it all together, why can't we? Why shouldn't we be the leaders in the United States as it involves outdoor enjoyment? And we'll talk a little bit more about the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund here in just a second. Sure. But we're falling behind other states in their investments in the outdoors, and we've got to catch up quickly. And hopefully that bill will get passed. But we'll come back to that in a second. I'm just curious, before we get into some of the legislative stuff, have you been able to enjoy some outdoors in the last few weeks?
I've been very blessed. And in fact, I actually heard some of the same sounds your son heard the other morning. I wasn't too far north of him. And, growing up, we hunted in a lot of cold weather. And this past year, it hadn't really felt like hunting season when you walk outside and want to put on a pair of waders and 80 degrees. But, to hear that ice cracking under the boat to a duck hunter, that's probably going to be a pretty good day. And it was to us just like it was to your son the other morning. We were very blessed, had a beautiful morning, enjoyed a great duck hunt amongst friends, and the fellowship and the camaraderie that comes with that. And, just got to watch what I call one of the greatest spectacles in the world, and that's the migration of waterfowl to the Mississippi Delta. I've shared a lot of memories with a lot of different people from across this country, and they were all memories in the Delta. And it's always interesting when they chime in each duck hunting season, just checking in, seeing how things are doing. They will always say there's no better place to experience duck season than in the Delta, and I couldn't agree more with them. We're fortunate.
If you love the outdoors and you love hunting, it's sort of the ultimate social sport. The opportunity to get sort of shoulder to shoulder with your buddies. In that case, and breaking ice and leaning up against a cypress tree.
We used to.
Go ahead.
Now, I'll tell you a funny story about that. In a previous life, I used to work at Beaver Dam, and Tunica, Mississippi, and got to meet a lot of people from across the country and introduce them to Nash Buckingham's old backyard with the Boyds there on South End Trails of Beaver Dam. But one of the greatest descriptions that I ever heard was there's a difference between duck hunters and deer hunters, and you can pick them out in a restaurant before they take off to go hunting when they're getting breakfast. The duck hunters come in and they are just as loud and just slapping each other on the back and getting the coffee. And the deer hunters, they sneak in and they're real quiet. So to your point, it's very much the case. It's a social sport, and I think being a Southerner in our culture, I think we're built for social sports.
We're talking to Alex Littlejohn, State Director of the Nature Conservancy here on Super Talk Outdoors. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. See you after this break.
Mississippi's Outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. Hope you're having a great day and staying warm. If you're out in the outdoors, I hope you're enjoying yourself. We have Alex Littlejohn, the State Director of the Nature Conservancy, with us today, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund here in just a second. But we're following up sort of on these conversations we were having about being together in the outdoors and duck hunting being this great social sport. And I love your description of what it's like how the difference between deer hunters and duck hunters that you talked about before we went to break. I have a video up at Super Talk Outdoors Facebook page. And incidentally, if you haven't liked the Facebook page, please do. All these shows are there. We also have a YouTube channel, and you can go to your favorite podcast and just put in Super Talk Outdoors, and the shows are going to come up. I think you'll enjoy them. We have a great variety of interesting guests. But I put a video up there that shows after they got set on Saturday morning, before legal shooting light, the ducks were just starting to pour in. And boy, that's a good sign, isn't it, Alex?
I tell you, it's sometimes that's as good as you're ever going to get. I've told people before, sometimes on those mornings when they put on that show right before first shooting light, that's worth the trip. Everything else is just a bonus.
Well, what you hear in the background, oh my Lord! I mean, you can hear all the commentary, the ducks coming in.
I had my regional boss from Virginia down last week and got to tour a lot of the work we're doing. Started off down there on the coast and looking at a lot of the good oyster work and some work along the Wolf River and Pascagoula River we're trying to initiate and continue. And then we got to the Delta got to the Mississippi River there in Woodville and looked at our work at Loch Levin, which is the largest floodplain restoration project on the Mississippi south of Cairo, and got up to the Delta to meet with some partners and some trustees of ours, and actually got him in on a good duck hunt right before he left on Friday morning. And for a Virginia boy, this particular hunt was going to be special if it came together, and it was a flooded timber hunt. And he was questioning us when we walked in. He said, I don't know if this is, and he's a duck hunter too. He grew up duck hunting on the bay, Chesapeake Bay, which is very historically has been a great waterfowl area. And that morning, about 5 minutes before first shooting light, he could have reached down and grabbed his limit around him. and he told me walking out, he said, Alex, I've never seen anything like that. And I told him, I said, Michael, that image that you saw is why I'm sitting here and why I'm doing what I'm doing today. And that addiction started when I was 5. And yeah, I said, it's real special.
It's the ultimate magnet from God. It literally is. And in this video, my son Jordan says to Jake, did you bring your tennis racket? And he really sort of meant it. Yeah. But it, that's what it's all about. And you think about turkey hunting, which we'll talk about in the next part of the show, or hunting for ducks in the Mississippi Delta, or really in so many different places across this great state. The Pascagoula River area down here on the coast. I mean, it's just so many places to enjoy it. Or you think about the incredible deer hunting that we have here. It's it's special, and we've got to work hard here in the state to make sure that we're investing in it, not just to keep up with the other states, because other states are doing significant projects to to make their outdoor enjoyment something that's going to be generationally enjoyed. But it's also just in terms of we want to be the leader. We don't want to come in from behind. Mississippi's the capital of outdoors in the United States, and we need to be the leader. The one bill that I have repeatedly talked about is the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. It passed the House last year 117-2, bipartisan support, incredible support. It got over to the Senate and kind of bogged down. It's getting reintroduced this year in a couple of different forms. But it looks like there's going to be some energy around it this year, doesn't it, Alex?
I will tell you absolutely that's the case, but I'll also tell you this is an exciting time in Mississippi, in my opinion. Just a few years ago, we would have not even fathomed having multiple bills talking about creating a foundational piece that will really change the trajectory for conservation and natural resources in Mississippi. To now fast forward to 2022 session, and we've got multiple bills. Yeah. I mean, it's caught the attention. You'd be surprised who's watching. And I will tell you, there are multiple industries and organizations at a national level and some at an international level that are watching and going, dang, look, Mississippi's got a couple bills and they're moving the needle now, and it's exciting. And I hope we can get this across the finish line, because it is, I can't state this enough, it's a foundational piece that's going to be required if we're going to move the needle and maintain our status as the outdoor capital of the world.
What we're talking about is creating a fund that can invest back into all kinds of different projects that could be focused on increasing the generational opportunity to enjoy the outdoors. States all across the Southeast. In fact, we're only one of two states in the nation in the Southeast that don't have such a program. And there's so many great examples. There's been a lot of studies done on what states have done, but the real power of this trust fund is the ability to get federal funds. And there's enormous billions of dollars available on the federal level that we could match with and do what some other states have done, take $20-30 million and make it nearly $100 million. That's what the state of Mississippi needs to do. The fact that we don't have that, we're missing out. We've missed out on another cycle because we couldn't get this done last year. We need to invest in the outdoors in this state. And today is we need to do it today. And I'm hoping that we can get the energy around it that it appears to be happening now. We need to have a good debate about it. We need to find out what's the best way to approach this. But one thing is for sure, Alex, I think that the whole notion of public and private land, you've got to include them both, that the majority of the federal funds on the federal level is coming from the Farm Bill. That means you got to have private land involved. I can't imagine having conservation efforts in this state and not including farmers. I mean, you have to do that.
Well, in a state that's almost 80% privately held, a lot of the experts that you've had on this radio show at the department and elsewhere will tell you wildlife and conservation don't know property boundaries. Those waterfowl that are migrating down, they don't know property boundaries. The deer that we have and so successful and having built a great program around deer, they don't know property boundaries, and the list goes on. Clean water doesn't know property boundaries. So, much like Thad Cochran knew when he really worked hard on the Farm Bill early in the 80s and understanding the power behind the private landowners if they were incentivized to really put conservation on the ground. We're in that same position today, and we know in most states conservation matters. In Mississippi, it's bread and butter. It's our backyard. In fact, it's some of our largest economies and industries that represent the state. So we know that we've got to include private lands as much as we've got to include public lands, because both of them need investments in conservation if we're going to maintain what we've been describing the capital of the outdoor world. But you can't overlook private lands when the state's held 80% by private landowners.
Well, you were heavily involved in the Phil Bryant WMA, and you've seen amazing projects happen all across the state. So many different complexions of projects that were designed to really increase the opportunity for Mississippians to enjoy the outdoors. You know what is possible, and you think about all these other non-governmental organizations that are working on administering federal funds and have tremendous experience at doing it. So much innovation happening across this nation. The opportunity to kind of tap into you guys and work, the state to work with you as partners on an effort like this. It won't take us long to catch up, will it?
Not really. I'll be honest with you. If we can get some dedicated conservation resources at the state level, between the partners we work with, the foundation being one of them, we know the avenues that you can run and begin to leverage the billions of dollars out there available. And much like I've said before, I want Mississippi at the table, and I want her to get as much of that pie as we can. So, it won't take us long. I can tell you that, because we know where the needs are, both private and public lands, and we know how to get the money. You mentioned Ed Penny earlier, Ducks Unlimited, and others across the state are doing this each and every day, much like we are in every state in the United States. So it's not something foreign to us. It's something we know how to do.
I look for in future shows, we'll talk about some of the kind of projects that other states are doing so you can have a better understanding of it. Again, we're not going to ponder issues like this too often. We're only going to do it when it's important for you to understand what happens in Jackson affects your ability to enjoy the outdoors and, generational ability to enjoy the outdoors. But, and you'll probably get to know Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy really well because he's just a good friend of this show. He's doing amazing work in this state. He cares deeply about the outdoors, and we've enjoyed visiting with you, Alex. Thank you, buddy.
Same here, Ricky. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
So this has been Alex Littlejohn of the Nature Conservancy. When we come back, we're going to talk turkey with Adam Butler, the Wild Turkey Program Coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. See you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I really enjoyed that conversation with Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy. We are really, really lucky to have so many dedicated leaders across this state focused on making sure that we can enjoy the outdoors generationally. And certainly Alex and his leadership and people like Ed Penny and others doing just incredible work. So now we're going to shift gears and move over to Adam Butler, who's the Wild Turkey Program Coordinator. You know him because he's been involved in the outdoor show here at Super Talk for many years. But I want to get to know him better myself. So anyway, how you doing, Adam?
Good. Glad to be back on after a little hiatus.
It's good to see you, my friend. Adam, I always like to ask this question of people, especially people like you who've really dedicated your life to the outdoors. Where did your love of the outdoors come from?
And how long do you have? That's a good question. I was lucky enough to grow up in rural Mississippi. I'm from Lawrence County. Grew up out in the country, and so being out in the woods and outside is everything I've known my entire life. I'm really blessed working for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks as the Turkey Program Coordinator because I've been infatuated with wild turkey since I was a little kid. I was telling somebody here just a couple of days ago, one of my earliest memories in life. I was probably 5, watching my dad shoot a gobbler on my grandfather's place, and something in that moment, the bird just bit me, and I have been crazy about him ever since, and somehow lucked up into going into a career in wildlife and finding my way to be doing something that I love, working with turkeys and helping make sure that our state remains the epicenter of the wild turkey world.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So do you do other kind of hunting as well, Adam?
I do. I hunt other stuff. I actually have bird dogs and fool with that a lot during the wintertime. I like to eat deer every now and again, but, turkey hunting's always been, my heart and soul. And it's probably one of the few things that has never really changed much during my whole life. I'm going to turn 40 here in about a week. And my love for turkey hunting and for that bird is still just as strong today as it was when I was 12 years old. So it's by far my favorite.
Well, I didn't, I got the love of the outdoors from my father and my grandfathers, and they weren't turkey hunters. We squirrel hunted and we dove hunted and we did just about everything. But we didn't turkey hunt. And so it wasn't until I was an adult that I went on my first turkey hunt, and I went with my two sons and a friend. And my goodness, buddy, it is addictive, man. Once you hear that gobble back and you get locked onto a bird and you get positioned well and you talk the bird in, there's really nothing like it. I mean, I don't know that of many people who have experienced that and who didn't leave that experience saying, man, I got to do that again. You hear that all the time, don't you?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I'm probably biased, but I think what you hit on there is correct in that it's very rare. I'm sure they exist, but I don't run across them. It's very rare to find a lukewarm turkey hunter. You can find people who, go dove hunting once a year, or, might go visit a duck blind when somebody invites them, and some folks like that. But usually with turkey hunters, you either don't get it at all or you're all in. And once that bug bites you, you're hooked, and it just consumes you. I think a lot of that has to do with kind of what you got at, that turkey hunting is sort of unique in that it is interactive, that you're calling, you're talking to the bird's talking back to you, you're holding a conversation with that individual animal back and forth. And, that connection is sort of unique, within hunting. There's not many other forms of hunting other than maybe, elk out west or something like that. But there's not many other forms of hunting we have locally where you can have that sort of an interaction with the animal you're pursuing and sort of almost build that bond in a way, And the other part of it is, we've got lots of data on turkeys and turkey hunters here. Only about a little more than a third of turkey hunters actually bring home a bird every year in our state. And so turkey hunting by its nature, it has a lot of failure built into it. And so anytime you get close and you're talking to the bird and you're having this connection, and it just seems like any moment he may appear, and then it all falls apart like it usually does, and he drifts off and he disappears, and he's still out there, and you're thinking about when can I go back out there to talk to him again. That whole thing, it makes it addictive, and it draws you in, and it really it's the reason why people keep coming back. It's the reason why people, stay up late at night, thinking about it.
Hey, well, my son Jordan, he's a lawyer. He went to Ole Miss Law School, and he will tell you one of the reasons why he is a lawyer is to certainly, provide for his family, but it's also so he can enjoy the outdoors completely.
Sure.
And when he was in law school, man, he'd get up at like 3:30 in the morning to make his way to public land. Mm-hmm. And there's one particular bird. He never got the bird. I don't think he got the bird, but this one particular bird that he got on, and he was on it like day after day after day after day. He was going every single morning before class started. And I mean, they were doing this dance, and I think in this particular case, he never close the cell. But what was interesting about it, and Adam, you hear this all the time, and you certainly just alluded to it. It not only creates sort of an addictive nature to it, and the time you're making all these incredible memories while you're doing it, but it's almost like you don't ultimately have to get the bird. I mean, it's like just the thrill of pursuing it and hearing that thing gobble back at you and react to you. That's really what turkey hunting is all about, isn't it?
Sure. And I've met people, it's not uncommon at all for people, to go and to get into turkey hunting, and it take them several years, 3, 4, 5 years before they get their first bird. And think about that. I mean, think about taking on a new, I'm not going to call it a hobby. I don't like calling turkey hunting a hobby. It's way more than that. But taking on this new thing and then spending that much time before you're ever actually successful. But people do that all the time because of what you're getting at, because it's so addictive, and the thing, it just draws you in. It just keeps you coming back.
Well, I had my friend Will Primos on both Coast View on the coast. He has a great coast connection. Grew up doing a lot of saltwater fishing as a child. And then, of course, we spent an hour together on SuperTalk Outdoors. And, we can talk about duck hunting and deer hunting and all this stuff. But, boy, when you start talking about turkey hunting with Will Primos, it's literally a religious experience for him. And the way he talks about it and the connection that the way he talks about that connection, it's literally a religious experience. But he's not alone in feeling that way, is he?
No, and I certainly don't want to put words into Mr. Primos's mouth, but I dare say there probably would not be a Primos game calls were it not for turkey hunting. I know they've branched out and they do a lot of other things, but I bet if you pinned him down, he would probably say he created that company because of turkey hunting, and the waterfowl and all the other stuff came later, and I mean, we've got a lot of examples like that here in Mississippi. We're nationally recognized as a turkey hunting state, not just because we've had abundant populations for so long, but I think just the culture of our state. You get outside of, now, the folks in Alabama would probably take offense to me saying this, but you get outside of the deep South, Mississippi and Alabama and a few other deep Southern states, and the tradition of turkey hunting that we have here is completely unsurpassed in the rest of the country. You go to the Midwest and they hunt turkeys. You go to the Northeast, they hunt turkeys, but you don't see that religious following like you're describing in other parts of the country. And, here in Mississippi, I'm really proud of the fact that, we are so well recognized for it, and that we've got so many nationally recognized personalities that are centered around the pursuit of that bird, and you named one of them, but there's a pretty long list of them that live right here in the Magnolia State.
Yeah, I had Toxie Hayes from Mossy Oaks on as well, and Cuz Strickland, he joined me as well. But you're right about Will Primos. I mean, there would not be a Primos hunting that we know today.
I've heard Toxie would echo that same thing. I think I've heard him out of his own mouth say, if it weren't for turkey hunting, there would not be a Mossy Oaks. So that's how
100%.
That's how important that species and the hunting of that species is to the hunting industry, to our state, to all all that goes along with sort of the outdoor culture of Mississippi.
I call those two guys and others like them, because there's a long list of them, outdoor ambassadors for this state. But you think about it. I mean, I often say this, and we talked about this at the first part of the show, but Mississippi's the outdoor capital of the United States. I mean, you think about offshore fishing, backwater fishing, freshwater fishing, deer, duck, turkey, all the other amazing hunting that we get to do. When you look at the collection of outdoor activities we have access to, we're some of the best in the United States, if not the capital of outdoors. And then you think about these representatives like Toxie and Cuz and Will Primos and his brother Jimmy and all these people and what they mean for the state. Lord have mercy. We're so lucky to live here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the upcoming turkey season. There's actually a non-resident turkey season draw process this year. It's new this year. And we're also going to talk about the WMA, the public land draws for turkey hunts as well. So we'll see you back after this break with Adam Butler, the Wild Turkey Program Coordinator for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks.
Whistling that sweet soul for him. I said,
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We have Adam Butler, who's the Wild Turkey Program Coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And Adam, I think that's so true. We wouldn't have a Mossy Oaks if it weren't for turkey hunting. We wouldn't have a Primos hunting brand both of these guys literally internationally known. We wouldn't have these brands if it weren't for turkey hunting. You obviously you fell in love with turkey hunting as a child, and look where you are today as a Wild Turkey Coordinator for the state. But turkey hunting this day is really good. And what do you, as you think about the upcoming season, because people are getting done with duck and deer hunting next season. Obviously, the southern zone for deer hunting will still be open through mid-February, but they're already thinking about turkey season, aren't they?
Yeah, this is that time of the year. Usually after New Year's, and that starts winding down. But certainly after mid-January, people start looking forward to turkey season. So it's that time. Probably a few people are probably hearing a few scattered gobbles here and there. When we get a little bit warmer weather here in a week or two, you'll start hearing a few turkeys gobbling. So folks they're thinking about it, no doubt.
So as you look forward, what's your thoughts about the upcoming season?
Well, it will be better than last year. I feel pretty confident in saying that. Last year was one of the strangest turkey seasons I think we've probably ever had in this state. And I think that's probably echoed far and wide. Combination of a lot of things. We had a bad hatch in 2019 throughout most of the state. And it's usually the 2-year-old gobblers that really kind of make or break how good the season's going to be. So you go 2019 and then fast forward 2 years to 2021. We knew coming in, we weren't going to have the strongest group of 2-year-old gobblers. And so that right off the bat mean it was going to be a little slow. And then, last year we had that freak winter ice storm, late February, just a couple of weeks, as the birds were starting to get their breeding season going, and just a couple of weeks before the hunting season started. I feel very strongly that probably put the whole process behind a little bit. And then, throughout the season, it was constantly raining. We had a really wet year. And so just a combination of a lot of things made 2021 very poor. And a lot of our data shows that. We have some survey data that hunters collect for us. And 2021, just the metrics were just off the table across the board. The good news is that I said you got to look kind of 2 years back at the hatch, and the 2020 hatch was better, a lot better. And so we expect there to be more 2-year-old gobblers coming into this season. And so, all other things being equal, it'll be better than it was last year. And some parts of the state are really poised to do pretty well. Looking at definitely like your part of the state down there in the southeast has been struggling for a long time, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest turkey numbers are kind of coming back down in the southeastern piney woods, so that's good. I've heard from people along the river in the delta that in some of the higher elevation properties that haven't had the flooding quite as bad, they're really poised to have a good year. And in the central part of the state, hearing some good things. I talked to a guy in Winston County the other day that said he's got turkeys coming out of his ears. So we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a better year than last year for sure.
So 2 other things in the short time we have left. I want to make sure we get those in. The WMA draw hunts. Tell me about that.
Right. So we have some of our wildlife management areas are draw only for the first couple of weeks. And those have traditionally been set up that way for a number of years. Now's the time to apply for those. So the application period is open January 15th to February 15th. And then kind of the new thing you alluded to before the break was we've done something different for non-residents this year. So Mississippi, we've always had a really early opening season. And that means that a lot of other people in the rest of the country whose turkey seasons open later than us, who are further north than we are, they like to come experience our state. And we welcome that, but, there's only a certain amount we can take. And over the last couple of years, we've seen sales to non-resident turkey hunters during the early weeks of our season double just in a couple of years. And then on top of that, some changes in some other southeastern states sort of left us where we were going to be about the only place in the country besides the southern zone of Florida to turkey hunt during mid to late March. And so the combination of those two things made us realize we really have a situation for public land. Private landowners can kind of regulate as they need to, but on public land, we had a situation that was going to be really unique. And we, as you alluded to, created a draw process whereby non-residents are going to have to be drawn to have the proper license endorsement to hunt public land during the opening couple of weeks. So for non-residents, that draw is open right now. It runs concurrent with the WMA draw. So if a non-resident wants to apply for that, they've got until February 15th. But that's where we're at. We did that hoping to kind of put a cap on the pressure and keep our public land hunting quality where it needs to be.
Well, Adam Butler, it's been a pleasure spending some time with you this morning. I think you're doing a terrific job, and we're going to be talking a lot over the spring. I look forward to checking in with you on a very regular basis. You're a terrific spokesman for the department, and on behalf of Wild Turkey, we really appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely, anytime. I'm always down to talk turkey.
Yeah, I bet you are, for sure. Anyway, hey, we really enjoyed having you. Main thing I want to say this. Stay safe. Just stay safe. Don't drop your guard when you're in the outdoors. Always put safety first. Have a great day, and we will see you next Monday.